So now the second part of this moment that we're together, the Easter of our lives. Still some people are coming in. That's all perfect. That's great. So all I welcome is what I said. So there you have it. So today, the Easter of our lives, in fact, collected essays class that we have on this Sunday. And it is a beautiful pamphlet this time too. It is, I think, absolutely great because you can listen to it as a tape, you can read it as a booklet, as a pamphlet. And so it really deeply touched me the way Joel presents this. And so part of it is also that the way that Joel writes is great. He uses a certain way of doing things, and one of them is this. It's not in every talk, but in some of them are, and in this one too. It's like he brings you into a mindset. For instance, what Jesus was thinking before he got crucified. Like you have this beautiful prayer that was connected to it too. But he puts it into, say, human conversation almost. And that takes a couple of pages in the pamphlet. He actually expresses what Jesus is, say, thinking and is in conversation with himself about. And then you, at a certain point, you think like, well, did he really think that? Or whatever you think about that, something happens when you get to the end of that, when you get to the end of what Jesus is thinking in this story. So I want to say, listen to that with you. And so this part where Joel is talking about what Jesus is thinking, it's the start of the Easter of our lives tape. 10A is that, and you can listen to it on YouTube, of course. And so I want to start with that. This is not something that we did before in class, but I think it's a great way to start. So then after that I come back, because I can read this to you, but Joel does this in such a great way that I would love to let him do it, so to speak. And this is our chance to listen to him together. And it's a bit like, this is what we're going to do with a tape group too. So you listen to half an hour of tape, you listen to half an hour of his talks together. So that's really lovely too, because you can feel the way that we're together now in this after the meditation. It would be different than when you listen to it by yourself. So there's a joint purpose and joint effort, and there's like, where two or more are gathered in my name, I will be there. So like the celestial support is here with us in this moment. That's why it's so lovely to join in this, what Joel is sharing with us. So I'm going to play that for you. It takes about 5-7 minutes or something like that. You will discover.
Good evening. This is Joel, continuing the New Washington series, and giving you an Easter message, which I have called the Easter of our lives. It is the day of the crucifixion, and the Master is seated by himself, somewhat away from the people in the courtyard. And outside, the crowd is gathered, outside the gates. These are the people whom Jesus fed when they were an hungered. These were the multitudes that he healed of their diseases, of their sins, of their infirmities. Some of them he raised from the dead. And they gathered now to be sure that he was crucified. The authorities, their authorities, have roused them to forgetfulness of the good that they have witnessed in his ministry evidently succeeded in convincing them that he meant to destroy their temple, their religion, probably even their God. The fact that they witnessed the healings and experienced them, this is forgotten. All that is remembered now is crucify him, crucify him. Inside, of course, the Roman authorities are much concerned because they have nothing against the man. They have nothing against the teaching. They have no liking for the work of the day, and the master knows this. The master knows that on one side he is between the people who have an unpleasant duty to perform and have no desire to do it, but probably feel that they must do it to uphold themselves. And on the other hand, he is meeting the ingratitude and forgetfulness of those whom he has blessed. And so he has the right to do a little thinking, and we have the right to look into his mind and see what he is thinking as he sits there waiting for the inevitable. And I have an idea that he is saying to himself, what a great spiritual victory has been given to me. What a great revelation from on high. So great that I know that the words that I have spoken will never pass away, and that someday men will repeat them, will remember them, and will lift themselves out of the grave of sin and disease and death, just as those words have lifted people out of the same evils today. What a wonderful thing God has done for me. What a wonderful light God has given me. What wonderful grace I received from on high, that I know all things, past, present, and future, and their meaning. With this great light, I can bring healing, consolation, comfort, not merely for those of my present age, but even before Abraham was. Those who existed will receive this light, and unto eternity this light will brighten the lives of men, and someday it will overcome the world of wars, the world of diseases, the world of fears, and the world of sins. Yes, God has been very good to me. God has blessed me. And then, as he turns to the present scene, he must smile and say, with all my success, wherein have I failed? Wherein has been my failure, if there is a failure? Wherein have I failed? Where are those I taught? Where are my disciples? Where are the apostles? Where are the 12? Where are the 70? Where are the 200? Where is my mother? Where are my brethren? Where are those who have been raised from the dead? Where are those who are to carry the message out into the world? Have I so failed that God has given me this great light, and I have not been able to give it even to one of these?
Okay, I'll stop here, because this is in fact the essence of it. So Jesus started to question, like, what happened? You know, what happened here? Has none of this been successful? And so you might remember or see that in your own life too. It's like, I've given this one that. It's like, I did my best. I give everything to the world. I give this to you and this to them. So you come to see like, well, it doesn't seem to be successful. It still looks like everything failed. Like, am I doing the right thing even? Am I doing the right thing in this, even in my spiritual life, in my spiritual presence, am I doing the right thing? So this uncertainty is recognizable. And so the beautiful part, see, you feel, and this was what I was pointing at, it's like you feel like, Joel is saying this, and he talks about what Jesus is thinking. And so he's dragging you literally in the frame of mind of Jesus that is, analyzing his own fruitfulness of work. Like, what did this all lead to? I had a great experience doing so, but what actually occurred? What was it for? Did it really work out? And so that concern is recognizable. That's, like I said, it's recognizable. And before you know it, you might use it in some way. It's like, okay, well, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. I might as well just stop meditating, or I might stop doing this or that. Or maybe I don't have to come to class, or maybe I don't have to do this. And all these things come up in which you start to doubt yourself. And so this is happening just right before the crucifixion, like before he got picked up to be nailed to the cross. So it's like he knew that he had to go through this, but the whole story looks like a total failure. In fact, like his disciples were not even able to sit with him for an hour praying. They fell asleep. It's like, wow, this is so hopeless. What am I going to do with this? It's like, oh, I can totally imagine Jesus in this, and you probably too. It's like, so there's something else going on. And it takes a moment for us to come to the place where you actually start to realize what is occurring. And that's what I love about the way that Joel teaches this. He drags you into this despair, in fact, like into an analysis that is not really like it's not a very successful evaluation. Like nothing seemed to have worked. The only thing that people want to do is kill him. Like, wow, I didn't expect that the outcome from all of this. And so that's lovely. So the next moment, and here's this is so great, like this is so beautifully taught by Joel. The next thing he says is then that suddenly, the God factor comes in, and putting everything into line, into perspective. And this is so good to remember. That's why I love to bring it in this moment that we're together. So it's so good to remember, because what is he saying? He says, like, no, it isn't. This is not your concern, because this is not your mission. Don't forget, you are an instrument. You are an instrument. You are, literally, God is living through you. So that is successful. God's plan is successful. It has nothing to do with your ideas about it. It might not look successful, but it's not your plan, so how could you possibly evaluate it? It has nothing to do with your ideas about it. And that is what I love about it. It's like there's a possibility here for you to come in, like, oh yeah, wait a minute, let's put everything here in perspective. Whatever happens through me is not my doing. Like, I'm not doing anything. I was never, like Jesus was never on a mission. He was not on a mission, not on his mission. Like, no, that's not really what occurred at all. So he was on God's mission. He was literally an instrument, perfectly fulfilling what he had to do, what he has to do, and being used completely and perfectly in order for something to occur, something that fits right into, say, God's plan for salvation. So that is good to know. It's good to remember. This would be the same as the idea of healing. Like if you look for a result in healing, Joel talks about that a lot too. Like if you look for a result in healing, you're actually not looking at it in a proper perspective, because you are being used in healing. You are being used to give yourself away. You are being, you're literally an instrument. You're not the one who makes this happen. So that's why you don't have to be concerned with an outcome. You can be certain that it took place. Whatever needed to occur took place. And that's really essential in our spiritual healing work, so to speak. I can say work, but you're not doing anything. So it's learning to become an instrument, learning to stepping back out of what you think is going on and how it's supposed to look all the time. So I'll read what Joel says, like exactly the way it is in the book here. Oh yeah, here. This is not your work. God says this, like, this is my work. You are my instrument. Did you not tell the people that I spoke of yourself? You bore witness to a lie, that this message was not yours, but his that sent you. Now remember that at this moment you cannot fail, because you never had a message. You never had a mission. You are the instrument through which this word of truth is given to the world. Your part has been fulfilled. And then he continues. So then the next thing is then the revelation, the greatest revelation that you ever had, and it is this: all that appears as human experience is but an illusion, including, and doesn't say that here, but it's like including what you think is happening to you spiritually. Like that is still, say, partially, is it your idea about what is going on as a person in a process. So that you were successful, it is accomplished, it is done. You have overcome the world. So you see that all of this is really the Easter message. It's like, no, this is not about, say, sacrifice. This is not about celebrating that Jesus died for our sins or something. Like, no, this is about seeing yourself in the proper perspective, knowing that the fulfillment is given you, like, because it was never your plan anyway. So as long as you are self-involved in this process, you think that something is missing. And up to that point, you will still ask for something or need something. You see a lack where there isn't one, in fact. So then, coming to the end point of that, which would be your resurrection, like literally, if you see the crucifixion as your humanhood, as you carrying the cross of self-identity, carrying the cross of misidentifying yourself as a body, finally it will lead to the place where you start to resurrect, where you become free of your ideas about yourself. See, and then I go back a little bit, and I go too fast now. So we come back to the place of looking at the example of humanhood, you as a human being, trying to work your way through the day or doing whatever you do, is still part of this crucifixion idea. And you say like, well, I'm not really nailed to a cross. And it's like, no, okay, I understand. But you definitely have your, say, ties to a world. You have your ties to a world that you think that you need to participate in the way that you're used to, or the way that you do it. So that part is exactly what we're talking about as the nails, in fact, because it binds you to a place where, pain and pleasure are confused, like where it's not so clear that there's, abundance and complete fulfillment and perfect happiness, because you cannot find it there. So you take pleasure in something that is in a limited or contracted way sufficient for you, at least for a moment, and you sacrifice, totality or wholeness in order to continue, to survive in this setup. Well, you can really call that nailing yourself to a cross. So then, if you look at what is being shared in Matthew or in Luke, where Jesus has this beautiful prayer just before his crucifixion, which is literally like what Joel is expressing here as human thought, you see that you can actually replace Jesus' words with your own words, with me. Yes, I did that. I'm doing that. I've been doing that. And this was the result. All of this. So it's like, make it very personal when you read it. And it's really great to pick that up, to read it. So if you have some time today, just give it a moment and check it out on Matthew, just before the crucifixion. Sorry. So Jesus makes this beautiful prayer. So then it becomes clear that this story, what appears to be a story, is literally about you coming to know yourself and freeing yourself from the bondage of space and time, and the bondage of perception, and the bondage of human law or social laws or health laws, or you fill in the blanks. There are so many laws that you acknowledge and live by, that you have no space left for a different experience of yourself. So practicing this, coming to this, like Joel says, you come to the greatest revelation. As a human, suddenly you see what you're doing in this world, and you see how illusory it is. You come to see that you're dreaming this, and that it has no reality, but that you put all your money on it, so to speak. You put literally everything on it in order to be completely invested in this human life, up to the point that you don't, of course. And so now a new door opens up, and that is the one in which you realize, yes, I've been nailing myself to the cross. Nobody else did that. It was a deliberate choice to be in this world and to invest in my limitation, in fact, in disease, disaster, and death. And that became very real for me. So now, luckily, I found a way out of that, which is given by Joel here in this Easter talk. Like, there's a possibility for you to wake up out of this, to get out of this mindset that is limiting you. So, and that is really the next step then in the after the crucifixion. You see something is changing. It's completely changing, because this body seemed to be dead. So some people talk about, and which is really interesting to me when I hear them say it, it's like, well, when the Christ died, like, well, the Christ never died. It was Jesus, like as the figure Jesus that passed by, passed on. But the Christ is the mind of Christ. He never went anywhere. He was always there, present. He's here present with you. He's your mind in wholeness, in direct communication. He is that. You are that. So the Christ never died. Because in Christ's mind there is no such thing as death. Like you literally overcome death, as we say, by realizing that there's only one mind, and that's your Christ mind, being completely connected in direct communication with every aspect of creation. And completely fed with divine love, pouring that through in you continuously. So you are destined, this is what Joel says, to prove the greatest revelation, that even death is an illusion. This is the highest revelation ever given to the world, the revelation that ultimately will be its salvation. Death is an illusion. Okay, so here we continue. The celebration of Easter is not to commemorate an event that took place 2,000 years ago, but to reveal a principle, so that when we face a world filled with wickedness in high places, whether they be high spiritual places or high political places or any kind of place, we stand fast in the faith that God itself is our power. God itself is our presence. So I started reading this in preparation for today, and I started listening to the Easter of Our Lives tape, and then something came over me. It's like, oh, how lovely is this? See, it's like you on any kind in any kind of way you can experience this. When you experience this, say with Joel, despite the words that are being mentioned, or despite all of that, then you actually can come in touch with what is actually being conveyed or extended to you. And this is the same as when I speak. It really does not matter, or when anyone is speaking, because in fact you can always relate to, say, the Christ in everyone. And what it occurred to me that when I was listening to Joel, that I started to communicate with that, so directly with him. And then also I saw, like, yes, I don't need necessarily directly to use these words. So I would love to put this in a form, I'm opening myself up to have this be given to me in a different form. I have no idea how that would look. And then in a very short time I started to come up with the idea of the haiku poems. And not that that is so very important or anything, or that it's special, or no, not at all. But it was just a form in which say that what Joel is giving us in this Easter talk can come to us in a different way, because it is actually the same. It's like when Joel is talking, it's not about the words that he's saying. So it's like you start to communicate with presence, and I can listen to his words, but I don't need to remember them. I don't need to really pay attention to what he is saying. In fact, because when I'm open and receptive, I actually communicate with him directly, like it's happening in the moment. And so I came up with these haiku poems, and which was really great. I remember a dear friend of mine, say Ray Como, he did this a lot with A Course in Miracles. He wrote probably 100 of them or so. And I never really got into it, but now it was different. So I sat down, I started to write 5-syllable sentences and 7-syllable sentences. I started to collect some of them out of this text of Joel, out of the pamphlet. And I tried to compose them almost, and it didn't really work the way that I wanted to. So then I got rid of my system and started to directly write down things, which was so great because it actually helped me to directly go into the text, into the words that were given, and come to the core of what was being shared. It's like, you see, you have a choice. There seems to be a limitation in which you have to put it into a certain form. But then at the same time, that is helping you to get to the core. And some things will fit and some things absolutely do not fit into this format, which becomes really almost like miraculous, because it is like, when it falls into place, when it really works out, so to speak, it is so great to experience that. Here's another one. Oh, how lovely is that? I can't believe it. Who would have known? Some words you can't see how many syllables they have, just like that. So you have to discover that a little bit. So I would love to use some of them that I also used in the meditation, but just to take another look at it. And so I'll see, I got them right in front of me here. So you can watch them on YouTube, but also on the website, iwihub.com website. And I'm making a little booklet of it, and when that is ready, I will send you one, or you can download it. So here's one. The influx of light, the wonderful light of God, the mission of Christ. See, that's great, because we just got to this. It's like Christ did not really have a mission. It was God's mission through Christ that it happened. And of course, Christ is not separate from God. Absolutely not. But so that's why it's so beautiful how this comes together. The influx of light, the wonderful light of God, the mission of the Christ. And this one you know very well too. I of mine own self can do nothing. Father does the works here and now. See, that's also very directly coming to us then. I of my own self can do nothing. Father doeth the works here and now. Out of this will come. Your resurrection is now. You are risen here. You will come to this. All that appears as human is not what it seems. It's like that was the translation of the greatest revelation where Joel was talking about. You will come to this. All that appears as human is not what it seems. Die in humanhood. Be reborn in the spirit. Go and sin no more. So sin can then be translated in terms of humanhood, humanhood. Valuing your human thought system, valuing that part that is in fact the illusion about yourself, not the reality. See, with all of these that I made, and it really does not matter that I made them, but I'm not trying to emphasize that. It's more like it is great to use text, for instance, to let the message come to you in all its stillness, like this literally falls into place. And that's what I love about it. So that was a real beautiful direct experience for me to do it this way. And that's why I share it with you. So, coming back to our Easter of our lives, Joel says in this pamphlet, See, he touches many things. So one of the things is what we read during the meditation too. It's like in this aloneness with God. See, it is always coming back to this, and you see this in the story with Jesus too. It's like he comes sit with himself. He's like separated, seems to be separated off, and then he start talking to God. He starts to come into prayer, and even when he's at the cross, he's in a prayer. He's literally taking his brothers home. He's taking his brothers to heaven, like the ones that are hanging on the cross too. So this moves along, moves further. And so the moments that you spend time with yourself, with God, or like we're doing right now, is like taking time to really come to the core of this. And you see, there is where the communication starts, and there where you become aware of this communication. But it takes a moment to quiet down, to come into this place or this awareness that is taking place. But I love it, the way it is described here. So one of the other, real big subjects from the Easter of our lives is this: I'm not of this world. Like, my kingdom is not of this world. So it seems like a repetitive idea to have this being presented to you continuously. It's like, no, I'm not of this world. So no, that's not where you put your faith in. That's not where you expect things to happen. That's not where you want your treasure from. It's not where you look for your happiness. It is not where you have your expectations. So that's why it's so important to remember that. And we use this in our classes. And so you want to remember this during your day too. It's like, oh yes, wait a minute, I'm not of this world. Like, oh, I've overcome this world. That is an actual occurrence. So I'm coming closer and closer to the place where I actually can resurrect, in that sense, where I start to realize, yes, I'm not of this world. I've overcome this world. So when you overcome this world, the world is gone. And that's an interesting experience to have, because you still appear to be in a world that you know is not real. So, and at the same time, you are so happy. In fact, you're so happy that you have overcome this world. So now and then something pulls you in. It appears that way, but you remember then, oh yes, I've overcome this world. I'm not of this world. So that is our healing work for ourselves, where we remember this. It's like, oh yes, the love of God is right here. I don't have to go anywhere for it. I don't have to look for my happiness where it isn't. Oh, look at how much time that saves me. How much, misery and pain that will save me. I can continuously, and which would be my function here. It's like, remember, oh yes, I'm not from here. I'm not from here. I've overcome the world. Okay, so in the last part, Joel shares something with us coming from the still small voice is how he shares it, which is beautiful. I will read that to you. My kingdom is not of this world. The ministering angels within our own consciousness, the impartations of the spiritual word within, by the voice of the Lord, make the safety, security, harmony, joy and peace of our world. The still small voice, which is the power of God, the only power, thunders in the silence. Give unto the Lord, O ye mighty, give unto the Lord glory and strength. Give unto the Lord the glory due unto his name. Worship the Lord in the beauty of holiness. The voice of the Lord is upon the waters. The God of glory thundereth. The Lord is upon many waters. The voice of the Lord is powerful. The voice of the Lord is full of majesty. The voice of the Lord breaketh the cedars. Yea, the Lord breaketh the cedars of the Lebanon. He maketh them also skip like a calf. The voice of the Lord divideth the flames of fire. The voice of the Lord shaketh the wilderness. The voice of the Lord shaketh the hinds to calve, discovereth the forests, and in his temple does every one speak of his glory. The Lord sitteth upon the flood, yea, the Lord sitteth king forever. The Lord will give strength unto his people. The Lord will bless his people with peace. Now is come salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ. So with these words, Joel ends his Easter talk. And so I hope you enjoyed this with me, to take another look at the Easter of Our Lives pamphlet. And it is really like, well, don't stop here. You can use this very well, because I think this pamphlet is very useful in discovering more about what is being presented. It is in fact like a summary of the infinite way, or a summary of Jesus and Joel. I always say it like Jesus and Joel. It's like Jesus' words are in it, Joel's words are in it. It's coming from Christ's mind presented to you, to your Christ mind. So the recognition of that, say, brings about the direct communication, and that's why it's worth to sit with it. Is what I mean. It's like the same as when I was writing these poems. It is like something occurs suddenly. There's a communication. I didn't have to use my list of syllable sentences. No, they just came. I could literally read them out of the text, and they came to me. And then it's like in this moment of communication, which is always happy. It's like, oh God, I can't believe it. I'm so grateful that this is occurring. I'm so grateful to have spent time on this, to sit with it until I didn't want to do anything else but this. Like time, I lost track of time completely. See, and this is your invitation, of my invitation to you to do the same. Like this doesn't stop here. Like no, use it and bring it. Yeah, work with the material, so to speak. You don't just have to listen to it or just have to read it, but you can work with this material. It's so beautiful to see how you are being used to let this come to expression, is what I'm saying. So thank you so much for being part of this Easter of Our Lives moment together, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you.